Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Holy freaking moly, a month ago, I thought it was way too early to even suggest anything close to this. But fast forward roughly a month later, I guess it's now official. There's been a whole lot of talk about the electoral map and how it's clearly shifting in this election. People have suggested that New Jersey or New York State might become battleground states, to which the most common reaction is probably a rolling of the eyes, a little shrug. Yeah, okay, buddy, that's not happening. If you suggested that those states would be competitive in this election, you would be called a heretic, a crazy person. And I'd say the same for the state of Virginia. We've obviously been seeing the numbers get closer and closer and closer, the race is narrowing, but to suggest that Virginia is now a swing state, that might have been a little bit of a stretch. Well, apparently no longer. And keep in mind, I'm not the one making the declaration. No, this time I'm leaving it up to the experts. RealClearPolitics.com and their 2024 election tracking just listed the state of Virginia officially as a battleground state. I think Democrats are in for some pretty shocking surprises. And honestly, you are too. We got some shocking data in the crosstabs. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on, and trust me when I tell you, this is big. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so I guess back to polling analysis. I'm really glad to be back doing this. Over the last 3.5 years, we haven't had that much data to cover, but these days, it's a never-ending mass release of data, and I'm here for it. Let's start off with the first piece of news. All we gotta do is go to RealClearPolitics.com on the front page. Here we have the Real Clear Politics Election 2024 RCP poll averages. And would you look at that, I have never seen this before. The Commonwealth of Virginia is officially posted on the front page and on the first Battlegrounds tab. I was completely taken aback this morning. I'm on Real Clear Politics' website every single day, 365 days a year. Normally it's a pretty simple process. I have it bookmarked. I go ahead and take a look, scan through the top headlines, and then of course look at the latest numbers. But this time something was different. Something caught my eye. I was taking a look at the battleground states, and I noticed this. Biden plus 2.2. I thought to myself, what state is shifting? Is that Wisconsin? I thought Wisconsin was heading towards Trump's direction. Then I slowly shift my eyes left, and I see Virginia. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think that was there before. In fact, I know I'm not crazy, because if we take a look at the last, I think, more than 12 months of polling data, I think these numbers go all the way back to February of 2023. Well, the data was pretty conclusive. Deep blue as far as the eye can see. This is not a battleground state. Virginia has been lean/likely Democrat for quite a while. This is a state that Joe Biden won, I think, by 11 points back in 2020. Doing a little double check, and that's correct. A nearly 500,000 vote lead for Joe Biden, equating to just over a 10% lead. Not 11 points, but you pretty much get it. Joe Biden won by double digits. He was previously up in the average by, I'd say, probably around 5 points. And so obviously, that's not a swing state. Well, the last two polls to get released, one from Fox News and one from Roanoke College, show a monumental shift. This race is officially tied. The state of Virginia can go any way. It's a toss-up. It's become the pure definition of a battleground state. And with Real Clear Politics now listing it as a battleground, I guess we could say it's now official. We are possibly on the verge of a major, generational, right-wing political shift. A lot of these safe Democrat states are no longer safe. And that puts Democrats in a very unfortunate situation because they now have to play defensive. When you're defending, you are losing, especially in the game of elections. You only have a finite amount of resources. Joe Biden's got like $200 million in the bank. Well, he's got to spend that money effectively because Donald Trump's got the same amount of money, plus give or take, I think, an extra 40 or 50 million. Both candidates have roughly the same dollar amounts. So it comes down to how effectively you spend that money, where you spend that money, or more importantly, where you choose to allocate that money. Democrats are now in the unfortunate position where they need to allocate millions of dollars securing their positions in historically Democrat strongholds. I don't have to explain why that's a bad position to be in now, do I? All Trump really has to do here is focus on Pennsylvania, which, by the way, he's already leading by 3 percentage points. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic. I'm saying he only needs to focus on Pennsylvania because he only really needs one state. He can allocate his $200+ million in the coffers to mostly campaigning in the Rust Belt, and if he's even partially successful, he wins. He's going to get enough electoral votes to win the election. But Joe's gonna have to spend the same amount of money in the Rust Belt, then also defend himself in New York State, in Virginia, and of course in Arizona, probably mostly to defend their Senate seat. They're gonna be wasting resources trying not to lose, and Donald Trump's doing the exact opposite. He's using resources to gain more support. Joe Biden actually has to campaign in Virginia. That's crazy. And even crazier than that, that, Democrats also seriously have to defend their position in New Jersey of all places. Here's another shocking headline: Trump takes lead over Biden in New Jersey according to new poll. According to Project 538, Trump now leads Biden by 1 point at 41 to 40% in the state of New Jersey. Supposedly, post-debate, Donald Trump is up by 1 in New Jersey. Democrats are simply bleeding everywhere. Nothing seems safe for them at this point, for Pete's sakes. It seems like California might be even on the table. Of course, I'm only kidding. I'm purposely exaggerating just because of the sheer level of shock. Supposedly Virginia's tied. Joe Biden losing in Virginia? The thought of that is just wild. There's obviously a trend here. The numbers that are dropping keep raining on the Democrats' parade. We are seeing stuff that 12 months ago would be truly unbelievable. And I really want to stick on the shock factor. You know, some of this stuff is unbelievable. Excuse my French, but Democrat strategists must be in their pants, because it's not just national numbers, it's also in the crosstabs, in the voting groups. A big topic of discussion this election has been the shift of young voters away from Joe Biden. Well, what I'm trying to get at here is that little situation that Democrats are currently dealing with young voters might be a whole lot worse than initially thought. According to Atlas Intel, which is a A+ rated polling firm, in a hypothetical 3-way race with young voters aged 18 to 29, here's how it breaks down. Trump holding 47% support and Kennedy beating out Joe Biden with 28 to 27. Those numbers are truly devastating, and this is coming from a pollster that can't just instantly be disregarded by the left as a Rasmussen poll would. This is an accurate pollster that predicted a Joe Biden win in 2020, and now that poll is showing Trump leading by significant margins with young voters. Something's happening here. This isn't the first time we've seen some very shockingly high numbers supporting Trump in the crosstabs. Over the past couple of months, we've seen some very surprising polls suggesting Trump support might be surging within certain demographic groups. You know, it feels almost as if we're in this very weird scenario where anything can happen. In this day and age, of course, elections are very hard to predict, but we might be in a scenario where some of these pollsters are catching certain, let's call it voter phenomenon, that other pollsters are possibly missing and might show up on election day and end up making a big impact. If I remember correctly, we recently covered a poll where I think Trump was getting 36% support from black voters. Now, of course, that's a pretty extreme outlier. I'm not going to sit here and seriously say that Trump's going to get 40% of the black vote, but if that's the high end of the polling average that we're seeing, the median and the average obviously jumps up. It suggests that Trump is going to have a really big possible showing of support from black voters. It might be more than expected. And the same thing with young voters. Some of these more outlier polls that are suggesting a complete collapse in youth support for the Democrat Party or Joe Biden, again, might be onto something. It might be a whole lot worse than expected. Not only Trump making inroads with young voters, but also on the opposite end, complete lack of enthusiasm. Young voters just might not show up. You know, I've been saying that this election feels very similar to 2016. Well, back then, that's exactly what happened now, didn't it? The polls were all suggesting 90+% that Hillary Clinton was going to win. Only a couple outlier polls had their finger on the pulse. They were onto something that everybody else was completely blind to. And on election day, that's exactly what we saw. We saw that white working class revolt. And this time it feels like we're seeing the same thing, except it's not a white working class revolt. It's just a general across the board Joe Biden has dementia revolt, which of course already implies the administration's failure, domestic and foreign. We might be seeing a total across the board collapse. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.